Hella fellas. Welcome back to Top 5 Choices. Today's video I am gonna do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best Canon cameras. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We'll be back with more videos. The G7X Mark III comes in at 2.4 by 4.1 by 1.6 inches, HWD, and 10.7 ounces. It's small enough to slide into my pocket comfortably even though it's thicker than a phone. You can buy it in a black or silver finish, each with a black leatherette wrap. The G7X's touchscreen tilts up and down and can face all the way forward for selfies. It's bright and crisp, with a 1040p dot resolution. There's no EVF included, though, which is something other cameras of this type often have. If it's a feature you want, consider the G5 Mark II, RX100 III, IV, or VA, or Panasonic LX100 II instead. The G7X Mark III includes micro HDMI, USB-C, and 3.5mm microphone connectors and supports SD, SDHC, and SDXC memory cards. In-camera charging is supported, but the camera is a little finicky about which power adapters it works with. I had success with my MacBook Pro charger, but you may find that your portable battery doesn't get the job done. Canon does include an external charger so you can replenish the battery outside of the camera body, but I'd recommend finding an on-the-go charging solution that works, as the CPA rating is just 235 images. If you've got a serious day of photography in front of you, whether it be a national park or an amusement park, the Canon EOS Rebel SL3 is an APS-C DSLR camera that's compact and easy to use. It takes decently sharp images, has a reasonably effective autofocus system, and is fitted with a responsive, fully articulated touchscreen interface. It offers a wide range of ports and connectivity options for videographers and can shoot 4K and FHD video. Unfortunately, the image and video stabilization performance isn't especially impressive overall, so you may need to use a tripod for some shots, and the video quality is mediocre in 4K. It is decent for landscape photography. It keeps noise and graininess in images to a fairly low level, even when using moderately high ISO settings. Its fully articulated screen is bright enough to be seen in direct sunlight. While it's relatively compact for a traditional DSLR, those accustomed to using point-and-shoots or phones to take pictures may find it a little bulky and tricky to carry around on a hike. Command dials, mode wheel, and buttons operate smoothly and precisely. Features a mostly plastic construction. Articulated screen hinge doesn't feel very solid. Input door is covered by a rubber flap. No cover for the camera's hot shoe Canon EOS Rebel SL3 body, EFS 18 to 55mm f/4-5.6 IS STM lens cover, shoulder strap, 1XLPE17 battery charger. Owner's manual rubber eye-cup around the viewfinder feels comfortable and well padded. Hand grip should accommodate a wide variety of hand sizes, without fingers getting pinched between the body and lens. Hand grip has a textured surface that provides a secure hold. Adjusting aperture and ISO requires multiple button presses, as these settings can't be changed using only the command dials. SD card can't be changed while the camera is mounted on a tripod due to bottom-hinged compartment door like rival Nikon. Canon has now fitted many of its DSLRs with 24MP APS-C sensors, and the EOS Rebel SL3 is the latest recipient. This is believed to be the same sensor that starred in the previous Rebel SL2, and it arrives with a similar dual-pixel CMOS AF system built into it. This system uses pixels in the sensor to perform phase-detect AF, which is the way DSLRs normally focus when you use the viewfinder. By having this on the sensor, it allows the Rebel SL3 to focus quickly when using live view or when capturing videos, something we'll be exploring in more depth later. The camera is fitted with the same EF mount that has long served Canon's EOS DSLRs, and this accepts both EFS and EF lenses. Whichever type of optic you choose, the size of the camera's sensor means your lens is subject to a 1.6x crop factor. So, the EFS 18 to 55mm f/4-5.6 IS STM lens, that's the default kit option with the camera, provides an effective focal length of around 29 to 88mm. The body of the EOS RP instantly gives you a DSLR feel. However, unlike most full-frame DSLRs, this one is very light at just 485G. The body is well built and the plastics feel sturdy, but this camera doesn't feel as premium as the EOS R. The dials on the top are a bit more basic as well. You don't get a secondary display or the new mode button. Instead, the EOS RP features a traditional mode dial and 2 additional dials for changing settings. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, since there's not much of a learning curve with this camera. You also get a dedicated button for video recording, a switch to lock the controls, and a multifunction button for quick access to drive modes, white balance, etc. Just like on the EOS R. The camera has a decent selection of ports. You get individual microphone and headphone sockets, a micro HDMI port, USB Type-C, and a flash sync terminal. The rear button layout is very similar to that of the EOS R, but one thing that's missing is the programmable multifunction bar, but we didn't miss it too much. Even though we found it useful on the EOS R, the absence of it on the EOS RP didn't really impede our workflow when shooting. The OLED viewfinder is smaller than the one on the EOS R and its resolution is a slightly lower too, at 2.36 million dots. However, we found it quite capable in most lighting conditions. The EOS RP doesn't get a very comfortable eyepiece though, which is something we missed. There is an IR sensor, using which the camera automatically switches between the viewfinder and LCD when you bring the camera to your face or move it away. The EOS RP has a single card slot, which is placed alongside the battery compartment, on the bottom of the body. It supports fast UHS 2 SD cards, which is good. The hand grip is fairly chunky, and we felt confident enough handling this camera when shooting. There's also lots of rubber cladding spread across the rest of the body to aid in ergonomics. The 3-inch LCD at the back has a 1.04 million dot resolution. Touch response is good, and touch input works in the menus as well as in live view mode. The Canon EOS RP features a 26.2 megapixel full-frame CMOS sensor, and is powered by the same Digic 8 image processor that the EOS R uses. It has dual-pixel autofocus, AF, with 4,779 selectable AF points, an ISO range of 100 to 40,000, expandable all the way to 102, 400, 5 frames per second burst shooting with one-shot AF or 4 frames per second with servo AF, and a maximum shutter speed of 1/4,000 seconds. Just like the EOS R, the EOS RP doesn't have in-body stabilization, so for stills, you'll have to rely on the stabilization in the lens. For video, there's electronic stabilization. This camera can also shoot 4K video, but there are a few small catches. Just like the EOS R, your frame is heavily cropped, about 1.6x. Also, on the EOS RP, dual pixel AF doesn't work at this resolution. Canon has managed to pack quite a bit of camera into the R6 magnesium frame. The body measures 3.8 by 5.4 by 3.5 inches, HWD, and weighs in at 1.5 pounds. It's a little bit smaller and lighter than the 7D Mark II, but the R6 sensor is twice the size and mounted to a 5-axis stabilizer. The R6 gets there with a mirrorless design, one that drops the optics and flapping mirror used by SLRs in favor of an EVF with a direct view from the sensor. It doesn't feel undersized, either. A textured hand grip and angled shutter release make the R6 feels as comfortable in the hands as a 6D or 5D series SLR. The R6 has 2 displays, a swing-out screen at its rear, and an integrated electronic viewfinder. The LCD is the same as on the R5, with a very sharp 3.2-inch panel, 1.6 million dots, adjustable brightness, and touch support. The R6 sports loads of connectivity options, including integrated Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to connect to a smartphone, tablet, or computer for wireless transfer and remote control. For video, you get a micro HDMI output port, along with 3.5mm microphone and headphone jacks. There's also a 2.5mm port for a wired remote control. Image and video are saved on SD cards. Each of the 2 memory card slots supports the fastest UHS 2 transfer rates. The camera ships with Canon's newest battery, the LPE6NH, the same shape and size as the LPE6. You can use your old batteries with the R6, but you'll get fewer shots per charge, and won't be able to top off via USB-C. As it stands, the R6 battery life still leaves something to be desired. The Canon EOS R5, the combination of a next-generation autofocus system, excellent image quality and fast 12 fps/20 fps continuous shooting means this is a camera that is just as comfortable and capable in professionally lit studios as it is shooting breaking news stories at dusk. Its autofocus deserves a special mention. Its eye detection is incredibly accurate and sticky, while its subject detection and tracking is similarly impressive, as we found on our wildlife shoot. the animal detection is simply mind-blowing and a huge selling point on its own. If you regularly indulge in that kind of photography, what about battery life? If you're coming from a traditional DSLR, this is an obvious constriction. But we managed about 4 hours of very intensive shooting while using the EVF. On a standard shoot, this means going through 2, or, at a push, 3, batteries in a day. With spares easy and relatively cheap to come by, plus backwards compatibility with the older LPE6N battery, it's not quite the impediment it first appears. If you're a high-volume, high-speed filmmaker, you might find the EOS R5's heat constrictions a little onerous. But during our half-day documentary shoot, where we shot in a variety of formats, we didn't see any overheating warnings. The EOS R5 is still substantial feeling, with a deep grip that makes it easy and comfortable to hold, but it's also easy to tote around without it feeling burdensome. Weather resistance is said to be up to the standard of Canon's 5D series, which professionals will tell you means the R5 should withstand troublesome weather better than some photographers. We'd be confident in most situations. Canon's adroit touch when it comes to building cameras that are quick and easy to use is much in evidence. Along with that 4-way joystick, which makes diddling through menus or selecting autofocus points a breeze, you also get a click wheel on the back, plus a dial behind the shutter button and a ring around the mode dial. Don't forget that RF mount lenses also have a control ring, so getting the EOS R5 set up just so is easy. If you're coming from another of Canon's cameras, the learning curve is basically flat. The R5 is easy to adjust to. Newcomers will find the menus responsive, intuitive, and powerful. Whether you're a power user or launching into photography for the first time, a square display on the top right-hand shoulder of the camera displays your current shooting information. This is a good way to keep the rear monitor turned off between shots, and the secondary display has a backlight that you can turn on and off manually. The touchscreen monitor is a good one, too, measuring a generous 3.15 in and offering a 2.1 MP resolution.